back to the Steel Pirate Media Podcast, episode 3. We're going to talk about some of the coaching changes that we've seen in the NFL. We're going to show up here again 2 weeks in a row. We're going to fail to bring you the chip. I promise. Here's a video of me going onto Amazon and ordering it and sending it straight directly to Avery. And Ronnie has already purchased his, and he has his. So we are good to go. A big coaching moves out in Seattle. They have an entire new staff, head coach, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. We have, the Gerard Mayo head coach signing out in New England. I think Mike Vrabel and Gerard Mayo are very comparable, and I just don't understand necessarily what Gerard Mayo is going to bring that Mike Vrabel doesn't. I want to know what we think about the Commanders coaching staff. Is that enough to overcome some of those organizational holes in new ownership and some of the roster holes that they have? And is Arthur Smith the answer to the offensive flaws in Pittsburgh this year? They were pretty much bottom of the barrel across the board in offense, and with Arthur Smith's success and expertise, is that enough to propel Pittsburgh to be maybe a playoff or a Super Bowl, contender next year with the defense and that sort of thing? So quite a bit to talk about, but I think it's a good lead here to start with Seattle and that entire, coaching switch that they had. I don't think there's a better person to have around if we're going to talk about the Seahawks and Josh. Josh, what do you think?
Keep it hot. Gave us the only ring in franchise history. That means a ton. Kept us in the conversation for his entire tenure and kept us a winning program the entire time. I think Pete Carroll is one of the greatest coaches to ever live, and he's one of the very few guys in the history of the world that's won an NCAA national championship and a Super Bowl ring, so kudos to him for that. That said, I'm extremely excited about what we have going on. I think the fact that, I talked to my dad about it. My dad's the reason I'm a Seahawks fan. And I talked to my dad about it. My dad's been asking every fucking year for as long as I can remember. We just need new guys. We need guys that don't have experience at this level. We need new faces. We need young, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what we did. We went from having the oldest head coach in the NFL to now the youngest, and Mike McDonald. I can't help but be excited about him, considering what I watched him do defensively last year and have, the most takeaways, most sacks in the NFL. I'm also an Oregon Ducks fan, so I'm very familiar with Ryan Grubb, unfortunately. He's been a pain in my ass for the last couple of years, especially. And I'm grateful that he's making his way up. He's started at the high school level 20 years ago. He's only ever been on the offensive side of the ball, and he's just really organically grown and is finally getting that opportunity. I'm excited about Grubb. Defense, Aiden Durd, another former player, was a former linebacker. Coached for a while in a bunch of different spots. Was the D-line coach for the Cowboys last year. So, again, just another, Ryan Grubb's never been in the NFL. Mike McDonald's never been a head coach. Aiden Durd's never been a defensive coordinator. We got the Bills assistant head coach, Leslie Frazier. We have everything's brand new, you know what I mean? And so I have really no choice but to be optimistic at this point. Unfortunately, to Pete's discredit, he's kind of made a name for himself over the last 8 or 9 years, especially as we're going to do just good enough to make the playoffs, potentially win the division, and then lose our first game in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's a league where winning matters, and not just in the regular season. So I have high hopes but low expectations for this year, to be honest. I couldn't tell you how many games we're going to win this year. I just don't know what this team looks like at this point. I don't know what directions they're going to go on draft day. I know John Schneider's still going to be head honcho there. I'm extremely excited for draft day. And, yeah, I mean, everything's brand new. Everything's brand new. So I'm just excited and hopeful. But temper my expectations, because last thing I need is more resentments towards the city of Seattle.
I think, somebody that Josh really did mention, and I don't think you're giving enough credit here to, is Leslie Frazier. I mean, Leslie Frazier has been in the NFL for 25 years. He's been a part of some really, really, really good defenses. And, with Mike McDonald being a defensive guy and Aiden Durd being a young, when I look at Arthur Smith being an offensive coordinator, I would say he's overqualified, whereas maybe an Aiden Durd is maybe a little underqualified. They're taking a shot on the guy. but your head coach is a defensive mind, and then you bring in an assistant head coach like Leslie Frazier. I mean, that's just kind of the icing on the cake, and shows me that whoever's making these decisions is really putting together something that makes a little bit of sense. I think somebody that you didn't mention, and I'm going to mention it just because of the name here, but is Jay Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's son,
special teams coordinator.
Yeah, was hired as their special teams coordinator. I mean, you know, having the the connections that McDonald does to Michigan to the Harbaugh family. I mean, McDonald coached with both of them. Coached with one of the brothers in Baltimore, coached with the other brother in Michigan, and then now Jim Harbaugh's son is coaching with McDonald out in Seattle. I mean, it goes to show that there's some good blood and some love in that Harbaugh family, and I think that might be some good promise for you guys out in Seattle.
Or that might have been a tip of the cap of Jay Harbaugh saying, "Hey, he's getting out of here. Can one of y'all maybe help me out and get me, upstairs somewhere?" You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we'll see.
But
it's nice to have that name on anywhere on your coaching staff.
You had a really good special teams coordinator. I don't know who he was, but I mean, your special teams was nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Larry Izzo. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think Harbaugh was going to be retained by Sharon Moore out there in Michigan. That's why he decided to let's go to the NFL. I mean, I think Seattle's looking like they're going to be pretty good in the future defensively. It's going to be a scheme change. You're going to have a lot of personnel flip over. As far as McDaniel liking to run a zone system. I've seen Tariq Woolen has kind of been Mike McDonald. Sorry, I've been seeing Tariq Woolen maybe possibly being on the trading block because he's not as good in blocking zone coverage.
He loves.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
You can't get out of the clickbait, buddy.
It's so good. I'm gonna bring up the clickbait. I don't care. It is what it is. Talking points, but it's gonna be interesting. With what Seattle does. Is Geno their long-term quarterback? What do they do?
Not a fucking chance.
What do they do? Do they draft a guy early? Trade up? Does McDonald try to find his guy in the draft, take a free agency? There's a bunch of questions. All of the teams that we're going to talk about today have the same type of questions, I think, in certain aspects. So
I don't know.
Seattle in the future is going to be straight. It's a good organization. They'll figure it out. I like McDonald though. He's, we talked about him going from Michigan, back to Baltimore. He was on the Baltimore staff 3 years ago. Harbaugh said, "Send me two of your best guys. One guy's going to Michigan. The other guy's going to Vanderbilt." McDonald was at Michigan. He left after 1 year. Jesse Minter came from Vanderbilt and went over to Michigan. Jesse Minter is now with the Chargers. McDonald is the head coach in Seattle. It all ties together. The Harbaugh family tree, coaching tree is a strong one. And, everybody's got success in that tree. So I don't think Seattle's going to fall off. I think they'll contend NFC West second, possibly first place if they can beat the 49ers, split with them. And then, we'll see what happens when they get into the playoffs.
Ronnie?
Yeah, man. Damn, man. There's a lot of things I want to say to some of the things that y'all mentioned and there and everything. I was actually gonna say the exact same thing. The first thing I was gonna say, in general and to start was just that exactly what Dunbar said, which was Leslie Frazier. It reminds me a lot of the Steelers with Mike Tomlin. When they brought Tomlin in, you bring a young coach in who's a first-time guy there who obviously had success, the success he had or whatever. He's a young guy, he comes over, and, I would say the one area I may have liked to see maybe another a veteran type of guy be hired as maybe the offensive coordinator. like I don't know who exactly was available. Maybe like you guys would have really reached out to Arthur Smith, right? A former head coach. But Leslie Frazier was a former head coach. He knows what a good team looks like. He knows how a team. So that was like what I saw. Like, okay, he's like assistant manager here, basically. He's probably honestly even almost second in charge there, working closely with the GM and now Mike McDonald. It's not hard. It takes a village in every aspect, and they have groomed and molded McDonald. Literally passed him from one Harbaugh to the other, and then back, and then putting him out to Seattle, surrounding him with a good staff and everything. Like it does seem like the stepping stones to something. And then the other thing that I would say that is interesting to watch out for is the fact that you see a lot of times he's one of these guys that the the scheme defensively that he runs is like brand new. It's something that people are trying to copycat, and you saw this a lot with Vic Fangio. And the problem is people would try to. You saw this a lot with the Legion of Boom, the cover three, bro. People would try to run it, and
personnel based.
either they're A, not coaching it correctly, or B, they don't have the same fucking players this other team has.
It's personnel based.
Like,
That's
yeah,
what the
bro,
McDonald system is.
yeah, because you're gonna make plays when you have Marlon Humphrey at corner, Kyle Hamilton at safety, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen at middle. So as far as Woolen getting traded, I don't know. I see them building the whole defense around a guy like that, and they'll
And the
build it around
Witherspoon, bro.
Yeah,
Hoffman
Spoon now.
and
Witherspoon, bro. That dude's a dog.
yeah, Witherspoon as well. I mean, I'm not saying that like someone's better or worse, but how quickly we could forget, bro. Tyreek Woolen is a 6'4" corner who runs like a low 4.3 40, bro. That's like Mel Blunt back there. That's Mel Blunt back there. Good luck throwing on him, like so. And a great coach like him, like Tomlin, bro. If you look at Tomlin when he came over, everybody thought that he was going to get rid of Dick LeBeau. Everybody, because they ran a completely different scheme. But Tomlin, I don't know. I don't know what was going on in his head. I don't know if the scheme he was running before was just what he was working with, and really he always loved, whatever. But one thing led to another, and they kept him around. Obviously, it worked out well for us. So I think a great coach is going to be able to conform to whatever scheme or whatever they're trying to do. You know what I mean? So I honestly love what they got going over there. I would just say, and Dunbar again kind of touched on that, was just like, are they underqualified? They're taking a chance on them, but it could be a home run if they hit.
Yeah, I think that's what they did across the board. Just like, kind of like, what I'm sure we'll touch on briefly at some point is like the reason why guys like Vrabel and Belichick aren't employed right now is like, we've seen it. We get it. It's not
exactly
bad,
why.
but like, why not roll the dice? You know what I mean?
Why not do something different?
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
seen for years and years and years coaches who have done something and have been fired, and then they get a second job, and the only coach that we've seen be successful doing that is Andy Reid, and he got Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know what other coach. Belichick, I guess he was on the Browns and again, he got Tom Brady. So I mean, if you take those two specific instances out, I don't know how many coaches have had a successful run somewhere and then left. And I'm surprised John Harbaugh isn't talked about more on the hot seat. Like, that honestly surprises me. If Mike Tomlin's on, how is John Harbaugh on the hot seat? Sometimes shit runs stale. Like, if you don't want to talk about something running stale, like,
No, for sure. For sure. I think rolls right into, what Josh was talking about Vrabel. You know, what we mentioned to talk about is, how Gerard Mayo has a job before somebody like Mike Vrabel, somebody like Bill Belichick, somebody
well,
like
you know how specifically with him, bro, he literally had it written in his contract that he was gonna
He was successor. He's the
Right,
successor.
right.
So
I mean,
again, that while I do hear because Vrabel was in that organization, and I do think it could be smarter if the stepping stones are correct and they feel like he's a mini Belichick or something. But
bro, this is my thing. If you look at their two careers beforehand, or their two careers prior to this point, you have you have Mike Vrabel, who went, had a great playing career.
Great at Ohio State. Great
Very
in New
similar,
England.
very similar routes, honestly.
And
Both of
then
them.
he went and started coaching at Ohio State and moving into the NFL. And what did he was a coordinator.
Started as a position coach, worked his way up to D coordinator in the NFL, and then
Right.
ended up as a head coach in like 5 years.
This is my only thing, in doing my research about these two individuals specifically. If you Mayo went and was literally a vice president of finance, okay, and seeing that for 4 years in between his playing and coaching careers tells me that Kraft sees more GM head coach vibes out of him, and he is ready to maybe manage some of those next level things when it comes to money and things like that. And he saw the success Belichick had when he had that much control, because he knew the whole thing and how it was all being taken care of. And when there is that one guy that can run the whole thing, that was the success he had. And that's my take on why Kraft hired Mayo, and why Mayo has a job before somebody like Mike Vrabel or
he probably costs about half as much too. If we're being
guaranteed,
honest.
because he doesn't have experience. You can't look at Gerard Mayo and say he's got 3 playoff wins. He almost beat the Chiefs in their prime. Had a third. Then the Titans had 14-point lead on the Chiefs that one year.
Yep.
When they beat San Francisco the first time, because if I'm not mistaken, Kansas City was down in both playoff games.
Oh yeah, it was Tannehill, bro. That's really the biggest thing. Like, bro turned Ryan Tannehill around, brought him to AFC Championship, and you're gonna let him go. Come on, bro. Like, give this man a franchise quarterback, and then let's see what happens here.
That's the thing too. That's what Riley's talking about as far as the finances. Like, I'll bring up something that I heard Julian Edelman say to LaShawn McCoy. If you look at the old Patriots team, he was talking about Tom. He was like the quarterback is always the highest paid guy. There's a quarterback and then 2 or 3 other guys. If you're really lucky, you got 3 other guys making top tier money. He was like, then you have 6 that are making mid tier, and then you have the rest of the team. He was like, in our case, we had 5 guys making top tier money, or 2 guys making top tier money, and then 13 in the mid tier, 16 in the mid tier, because everybody could afford to get paid. That's what Robert Kraft is trying to look for. What Robert Kraft doesn't understand is this is not the same generation of mental thinking that there was 20 years ago. The whole know your worth thing is real. And people, and kids especially, know their worth because they're getting paid their worth in college now.
Well, bro,
so unless you're gonna go out there and try to find D3 studs, which there are, we're not gonna say that they're not kids playing D3, D2, D1AA, NIA, NIA, whatever, FCS, all types of college ball. There's studs everywhere. It's hard to find those studs that are NFL size, NFL speed, and NFL caliber that don't want to get paid, because that's what their livelihood is. That's what they're going for. And they know the NFL makes money. They know that the Patriots make money, so they want some of it.
Bro, the other thing too, though, is Brady used to take pay cuts more than anybody. Brady was the best quarterback in the NFL while being paid like 12th to 15th the whole time.
Bro, he was mid-tier. Like, that's the mid-tier that I was talking about. Like, he was one of the mid-tier guys.
Yeah.
Randy Moss was getting paid the most. He wasn't a mid-tier talent at all.
They used to do a good job of having dudes like, and Gerard Mayo, he might be one of the guys, because I think he was a lot. I think he was definitely a line. I know he's a linebacker when he played, but I think he coached the linebackers there originally.
Inside backer,
yeah.
He was a middle linebacker. He was great at Tennessee.
Yeah, and you watch somebody like Jamie Collins, bro, go from the Patriots to the Browns and be nothing, and then come back to the Patriots and be almost a defensive player of the year immediately again in that scheme. So
Dante Hightower. Dante
Yeah.
Hightower, another guy, stud at Alabama,
Oh,
great
yeah.
for the Patriots. You know, like the
Yeah,
Patriots
Mayo
had
was
very.
doing it. Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see what happens with Vrabel if he just sits out for the year and then just sees what's open
100%.
next year, maybe.
100%.
Yeah.
Him and Bill are 1-2, 1A, 1B next year when somebody's on the fucking hot seat. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guarantee.
true.
I'll be honest with y'all. I think that whole Patriot Way little Apple TV Plus little documentary is coming out about the Patriots. It's putting the old dent in Bill Belichick's coaching future. Well, go ahead and let y'all know that thing is taking a hit because people don't think it was Bill. People don't think it was Bill anymore. Everybody thinks it's just Tom. I'm just saying.
Well, the motherfucker left at 48 goddamn years old and went to another state, and within 2 years had a fucking ring down there.
That's
Yeah.
what I
It's
mean,
kind of
bro.
hard to,
Like,
and coincidentally, as soon as he goes down there, the Patriots suck ass.
that's
it's
what
like-
I mean, bro. Like, we're talking about Bill Belichick
they can back it
coaching
with
again.
evidence. It's not just people saying like, "Oh, it was Bill. He's the greatest coach of all time." It's like, yeah, he had a lot
bro,
of wins,
that's what
but
I'm
like,
saying.
as soon
Like,
as the
we're
fucking
talking
guy
about
throwing the
Bill
ball
Belichick.
left, he was dog shit.
You're talking about Bill Belichick. Yeah, you're talking about Bill Belichick coaching again, though. Like, let's be honest here. He's not coaching because people don't want him.
Oh, bro, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a DC job next year.
I would.
I think if Bill Belichick is going to be the head coach, he's got to be head coach GM, or he has to step back and be a coordinator.
Tell me that doesn't scream Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I mean,
Bro,
it does.
They
Jerry
fuck up
Jones
and
doesn't
lose in the
do
first
it.
round of the
Jerry Jones
playoffs
doesn't
next
do
year
it.
like they fucking always
He
do.
has done it
Tell me
this
Jerry
year.
Jones ain't calling Bill Belichick saying, "Hey, you want to come help us out?"
That's
No,
the
100%.
problem.
Hey, Bill, do me a favor,
That's what they
man.
did.
Come down here to Dallas.
Yeah, I'll
We-
give you
we need
$138 million for 2 years.
all of the oil money that my daddy left me will go to you and your kid. I'll even hire Steve. You know, Steve with the mullet.
Yeah, he'd take
You
some
can
dog
bring,
shit.
you can
Where's
bring,
he at now?
you
He
can
went to
bring
some
your
college.
dog. Bring Nike down here. Bring Nike. You don't even know how to say the fucking dog's name right.
That's the issue with it though. That's the issue with it though. Is people like Mike McCarthy getting another chance? Like, bro, who could they have? Like, when Mike McCarthy got hired, bro, you know, that's when they could have jumped on a Raheem Morris or any of these coaches that have gotten hired this time or hired that around that time. Like, and I think that's what scared a lot of those teams away from like
when
a Vrabel
McCarthy
stuff.
got
It's just
hired, they
like,
should have hired Eric Bieniemy.
yeah, or there you go. Yeah.
Hey,
I
bro,
think we're all on the same page with Eric Bieniemy.
Oh yeah.
Bro, I don't get it. We can get into
No,
the
bro,
Commanders
it's
now.
Well,
man.
yeah,
That's a
I mean,
good
next up,
segue.
There's
I can
Bro,
think of
next
10
up-
head coaches right
Bro,
now that are
I mean,
way
specifically-
worse than Eric
bro,
Bieniemy,
it's because
dude.
he coaches too hard. That's all it is. They're scared he coaches too hard.
He
That's
coaches.
the name of the
What are you
game.
supposed to do with adult men?
That's what
He coaches.
Yep.
Yeah, get into it, bro. Get into it, Riley.
So the question we tabled here is the Commanders' staff that they're assembling, which I think we could all agree has some firepower and some potential, but is the Commanders' staff that they're assembling enough to overcome their organizational and some of their roster holes? You know, they do have a decent, first round pick coming up, but having that first round pick, new ownership, there's definitely some holes. Last season wasn't exactly leading to a bright future. So, it starts with the hire of Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is a previous head coach with the Falcons. He just absolutely stunk it up in the playoffs with the Cowboys. No?
He allowed 48 points.
That guy has stunk it up in the playoffs ever since he's left the Seattle Seahawks.
48 points at home to a first-year quarterback.
What was the lead that he blew to Brady in the
28-3.
28-3. Okay.
He's a defensive guy.
He's a
Firepower.
defensive guy, and the first guy he ran out of the building in Washington was Eric Bieniemy. I think,
bro.
I
It
think,
makes no sense.
honest to God, and we can get into this more obviously, but I think the answer is the staff in Washington good enough to overcome, and it starts right with Dan Quinn as the head coach, and the answer is no, not even fucking close. That's what the answer is to that. I don't think that running somebody like Eric Bieniemy out of town when you're a defensive guy and he's already been there a year and established some things is the answer at all. I think the only reason you did that is because of a reason that Ronnie brought up to me over some text messages, and that's because Dan Quinn felt that Eric Bieniemy could be a threat to his job, so he was the first person that he got rid of. And that's a coward move in my book, especially from an organizational standpoint. If your head guy is going to run the guy that could take his job because he could be better and he could put the organization in a better place to win, if you're running that guy out of town, then you don't have our best interests as an organization in mind. You're scared.
And
That's
that's
what
the
just
other
happened
thing
with San
too.
Francisco and Steve Wilkes.
Right.
It's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. No, that was shitty, and that's why I'm glad in the long run that the Steelers don't do stuff like that. As a Steelers fan, I'm glad that they wait 1 year too long rather than fire a guy, because the next guy that goes to be the defensive coordinator at San Francisco, he's gonna remember what just happened. But but the thing with Eric Bieniemy is honestly, it really is disturbing if you really think about it, because like, where
There's
else would a
something
guy
we don't know. There has to be something that we don't know that owners know. Like there just has to be
I
something.
mean, yeah, something
What
ain't white. I mean,
what
something
are
ain't
we
right.
missing?
What'd you say?
I said something ain't
He
white. I mean,
said what's
something ain't
true.
right.
He said what's true.
I mean,
Like,
Because, bro,
you
tell me
can't discredit
bro,
it.
you're talking, bro. How many chances has Josh McDaniels got over because of the Patriots? And you're telling me
hey,
Eric
bro.
Bieniemy with the Chiefs?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
bro,
bro.
their
Like,
offense, like, bro.
Bieniemy getting
You
moved
want to
up to
see?
head coach this time was a layup. Like to me,
Oh,
that
bro,
was one of those
but
things. Like Bieniemy's going to be Washington's new head coach as soon as they fire
that's one
Riverboat,
of the
and
hammer
Vrabel's going to go over to New England. I didn't know
picks.
about the contract shit with Gerard Mayo, but it's like those were the two easy layup ones that I didn't have to think twice about. And then I'm like, wait, what happened to Eric Bieniemy?
Right.
What?
Bro,
What
I will
keeps
never
happening to
forget
this
the
fucking
group
like they were
chat.
talking about him on NFL
Crazy.
Network and ESPN for 3 fucking weeks straight after he said, "No, I want to get a job somewhere else." They didn't boot him out of Kansas City. He said, "I want to look elsewhere. I want to grow." And I got
bro,
motherfuckers
that
calling me,
he
offering
knew.
me head coaching jobs, and somehow he ends up the offensive coordinator of a dog shit franchise. And then kind of make something happen. Like he made Sam Howell look like a
Bro,
good quarterback this year, and
thank
Sam
you,
Howell
bro. There
fucking
was a point in time
stinks.
they were
The
putting up
fact that
like
Sam Howell was productive
this.
at any level this year is directly
Yes,
as a
bro.
result of Eric Bieniemy. Okay, and the reason why the Chiefs sucked ass this year offensively for I don't know 2 months straight is because after a while of having a phenomenal OC like Eric Bieniemy, shit looks bad when he's not fucking there. It takes some adjusting. Like Eric Bieniemy's presence versus him not being there is clear as fucking day. There is something that we don't know about Eric Bieniemy, dude, because this guy should be a head coach anywhere. I would have loved him in Seattle. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
I'd be stoked.
When you go from who's the old was it who's the old Chicago Bears coach?
There's
Got fired like
118 of them.
Like they got fired 2 years ago. Nah, not Lovie Smith. He was down there.
Matt
The
Nagy.
old
Matt
yeah.
Nagy. He's the OC for Chiefs now.
When you go from Eric Bieniemy to Matt Nagy, that's kind of what
yeah.
There's
Big
elevator
gap, but they
drop.
both got
No, but
rings.
bro, I think it was
But
like that. Kansas City basically was like that. Like Kansas City basically said during that time, even Andy Reid was like, "Bro, we don't understand why this dude why nobody will hire him as head coach." So he basically has to fucking leave here and go turn a new organization around for people to believe that he's actually great. And that's like what he had to do, because people were just saying, "Well, it's Andy Reid." What do you mean? How many coaches have we seen? Matt Patricia. Bro, Matt Patricia, the fact that he's even still in the league just because he was under Bill Belichick. So the excuse that, oh, well, people think that it's Reed and that it's not Bieniemy. Okay, every coach in NFL history, the coaching tree beneath them, they've had fucking 10 guys that have got head coaching jobs. Some have failed, some haven't, whatever. But that's just how it works. 9 times out of 10, like the guys, if you look at the guys who are getting head coaching, okay, D'Amico Ryans, where did he come from? A Super Bowl losing team. He was one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Or if you look at another coordinator, I'm sure that was hired this year as a head coach, McDonald. at the Seahawks? Why was he hired as a head coach? If Baltimore was shitty on defense, you think he'd have got hired? No. That's how we judge people, by their success.
It
So
reminds
it's
me
like,
of Brian Flores. Do you remember what happened with Brian Flores?
yeah.
How he was
It's
just a
another
victim
one.
of he was the owners trying to fucking pay him to tank and lose fucking games.
Yeah.
And then nobody wants to hire the fucking guy when
Bro,
he swept Bill Belichick and won 9 straight and told the owner to suck his dick.
And honestly,
And he's still not a head
Bro,
coach. And then he
bro.
goes to Pittsburgh, and Tomlin, the first thing he said was, "This guy is way overqualified to be here
Yes,
doing this.
bro.
We're fortunate to have him here
Why he's
because
the
it doesn't
DC
make
of
sense.
Minnesota now.
What am I
He's the
missing?
DC in
How full
Minnesota
circle,
now.
bro, Josh? How full circle crazy is that Flores gets the job? People are like, "Oh, he gives up on Tua. He gives up on Tua." Mike McDaniel comes in and be it to his credit, he turns Tua around as much as he could.
Yeah, he taught him how to hit his head. Call it what you
But
want.
bro, now if you look at it, Flores was just right. They were
He
better
signed
just
him up for
ripping that
judo.
Band-Aid off.
Flores
Like-
didn't do anything wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
I wanted
like,
him in
Tua-
Seattle
Tua-
too. I remember saying, like, what the fuck is this guy doing unemployed? And then he gets, what did he even do in Pittsburgh?
Oh, he was the
Hey.
linebacker coach.
He was a linebacker coach. He went from a winning head coach of a horrible organization in Miami to being a fucking linebacker coach in Pittsburgh.
For
Like,
free.
how the fuck does that happen?
Because he didn't want to sign.
What am I missing?
Well, with that,
Riley,
there was a
free too.
Well, yeah, there was a contract dispute, so he doesn't get paid if he signs another contract with somebody. So I understand what you're
Right,
saying.
it was also-
Dispute the same reason they lost their draft pick because their owner's a fucking scumbag.
Like, you're an idiot. Dude was trying to get Tom Brady there, bro.
Yeah, good
Right.
luck.
I'll be honest.
Like, people
wait a
even
minute.
admit that happened.
The Dan Quinn hire was made specifically to fix the worst defense statistically in the NFL. Like,
Should
you
go
know,
great. His last game as a defensive coordinator, he had 48 fucking points
no.
scored on him at home in the
Oh, no.
playoffs to a
That-
first-year
that's
quarterback.
why, you know,
136
that's why it's
rushing yards.
That's why
Good
it's
luck.
ironic. You know,
Good luck in the
the
NFC
team
East,
that was-
brother.
The team that gave up 31 points a game last year. Just
Yeah, good luck
hired
with the
you.
Cowboys and fucking Eagles next year, dog. Good luck.
That leads really good into a time in Steelers recent history when the offense was actually worth a damn. Last year the Steelers were like 29th, 28th, all the way around, passing and rushing and offense, and they went out and hired a guy like Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was the head coach in Atlanta for 3 years. I had specifically said that I thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers severely lacked leadership in the offensive side of the locker room. If you looked at all of the position groups, I think the most senior player when you really get down into it is Deontay Johnson. And he hasn't had that much success. I mean, he's a good receiver, but he's definitely a work in progress. 3 seasons ago, he led the league in drops and that sort of thing. So that was kind of alarming, but he's definitely come along since then. But, the Steelers go out, they hire a guy like Arthur Smith, who didn't have the best season at all in Atlanta, and I think that's a testament to Desmond Ridder, really. I don't think Desmond Ridder is an NFL caliber top tier quarterback. I don't think he's mid tier. I think Arthur Smith can take a guy like Ryan Tannehill or Kenny Pickett and make them a competitive mid tier quarterback. He did it with Tannehill. I think Tannehill and Kenny Pickett have some similarities, and I think some things could work out. I mean, Ronnie definitely took a deep dive into this. What do you think about the fit with Arthur Smith and Pittsburgh and some of their problems and his solution to that?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference off the bat is the use of play action from under center, and specifically just play action in general. It's really crazy if you look at Pittsburgh, the success that they had running the ball. People that don't even know much about football, it wouldn't be too hard to explain to them that if you're having success doing one thing, it's going to be pretty easy to almost trick them into thinking you're doing it again and do something else, which that's all that play action is. You're having the amount of success with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, and you're not going to try to set the defense up by faking the run and booting out and creating easy opportunities for your quarterback and stuff like that. So that's the number one thing that like Arthur Smith is going to bring to them. Now, I think who the quarterback is going to be a huge question in that regard, which I know is kind of a different conversation. But I do think that whether it be Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph, that somebody like Arthur Smith will be able to get the most out of them, much more than Matt Canada or Randy Fietner is going to do.
I went back and kind of compared the rosters, right? I think Arthur Smith was successful in Tennessee, and that was Tannehill, Derrick Henry,
Yes.
AJ Brown,
big body
A top
receiver,
5 offensive line.
but
Najee Sharp,
and
Corey Davis. Okay, hold on.
A
But just hear me out. A top 5 O line. Okay, I hear you, but 1 second. So we have those as our top skill position players, and I think the top skill position players from Tennessee, when he was running the second best offense in the league, I think that roster in the skill positions matches better to Pittsburgh's roster with Kenny, Najee, Jalen, George Pickens, Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, than Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that the pieces that he has to work with in Pittsburgh match better to what he was already successful with. So I don't think it's fair to compare necessarily the time in Atlanta. I mean, I think what I take out of that is he was head coach. So he has head coaching experience, head coaching material. In a sense, somebody thought that. So he brings in that leadership aspect that the Steelers really, really lacked. And I mean, you saw that in all sorts of aspects. There was no strong offensive leader. I mean, you have Najee Harris, and I'm not taking anything away from Najee, but I played football. What's Najee's success? Why am I going to come to Pittsburgh and let Najee lead me? You know what I mean? He hasn't had crazy years. There hasn't been crazy success in the last 10 years in Pittsburgh. So, definitely TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Minka have some things to hold on the defensive side of the ball, but the offensive side of the ball, they really lack a lot of that leadership. And bringing in that guy, like I talked to Ronnie about, an overqualified offensive coordinator, brings in some of those leadership aspects that when you have a young, not so confident Kenny Pickett, that head coaching material guy can kind of make up for some of those leadership lacks. I think it was a great hire, in my opinion. What do you think, Josh? Just curious.
Honestly, the first thing that came to mind was run. You know what I mean? Like, Arthur Smith is maybe the most run-heavy, coach left in the league, it seems like. You know what I mean? But I have to say this, though, and I don't think that it's going to be a huge thing. I think it actually makes a ton of sense for a backfield like Pittsburgh has right now with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, whoever the fuck you want to put first there, whatever. I remember when he drafted Derrick Henry, or was on the team that drafted Derrick Henry, and then Dion Lewis ran the ball the whole time. And I was like, what is going on? And I'm thinking, like, I would always look at it like, is he hurt or something? Like, there's a Heisman winning running back. Like, this guy's a freak of nature. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Dion Lewis just toted the rock the whole time. And I'm thinking, like, am I missing something? And then I'm thinking, like, it's probably a head coach decision, whatever. That's not on Art.
Yeah, I think that was.
Then he goes to
before
Atlanta and he drafts Bijan Robinson at the number 8 pick, and he splits fucking carries with Tyler Algier last year. And I'm thinking, like,
Arthur Smith
what is happening? Like, was Arthur Smith the guy there? That's his biggest blemish for me. I agree with Riley. I think Desmond Ridder is absolute dog shit. I don't think he'll ever be able to. I mean, that's not even a fucking 500 quarterback in the NFL. He had a fluke year with Cincinnati with some absolute dogs on the team. Good for him. That's where his fucking success is going to lie, in Cincinnati. I don't even think Desmond Ridder's a good backup at this point, considering the names that are out there available.
Taylor Heineke is.
Well, I was going to say,
the Falcons had a great O-line last year. I mean, name to name, the Falcons had a fucking great O-line last year, and they draft Bijan Robinson. I'm thinking, like, Bijan Robinson might have the best, like, he might be the guy. Coming out of college and shit like that, like, it was him and Blake Corum. 2 years ago, it was him and Blake Corum. Like, they were both just, their numbers were crazy similar, And
Ollie
like you see what
Gordon.
Corum's been doing, and then
Okay.
just
I wanna
take
wanna
Blake
make
Corum
sure
and
that
multiply him by 3 in size, and you have Bijan Robinson. The guy's a fucking freak. But
I got a
honestly,
rebuttal.
I still think he's an overqualified OC, absolutely. And I think
I
he
got a
could,
rebuttal
but they
real
have to
quick.
build that fucking line, dude. Like the Steelers line
Here's my
showed up later in the season last year.
They did, but I mean, they drafted Broderick Jones. I mean,
Yeah, but when did he play? I remember you got me tickets to the first game, and I'm like, where is Broderick Jones?
no,
Okay,
for
so
sure.
here's the thing. Let me just say something, bro. Just because you're a first round pick doesn't mean you have to start day one. Actually, that could be a coaching malpractice to just start somebody day one. Just because Bijan Robinson exists doesn't mean that I'm gonna just go shit on my guy Taylor Algier, who had a great year for me last year. And how are we not going to talk about the fact that, oh, when you look at the numbers, Bijan Robinson had 3 less touches per game than Christian McCaffrey. Wow, it's almost like the media tells you narrative. The 3 top target shares of any 3 players in the NFL were Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and Drake London. Wow, the problem is Drake London led the NFL in uncatchable targets. Now, if you think that Kyle Pitts should have had more than 90 targets, I agree, but it's 90, not 50. All right, so there's a narrative that isn't true. Secondly, Arthur Smith was only the coordinator at Tennessee in I think 18 and 19 or 19 and 20. And the 2 years that he was there, one of the years Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards. So I don't remember necessarily Dion Lewis when he was there not getting carries. But I just think that the narrative that Arthur Smith used them wrong. Some people would say that getting 7 wins with Desmond Ritter and no defense is not bad. Now, going 3 years in a row doing that, okay. But do me a favor and go look up Arthur Smith's first year in Atlanta when he had Matt Ryan, a very much declining Matt Ryan. They were a top 10 offense in the NFL. And he was one of the few guys to turn Cordell Patterson into an actual weapon. An actual weapon. All these other coaches saw him and didn't know how to use him. He put him right in the backfield, made it simple. So I think that sometimes the media draws these things, but when you dive into the stats and you see that Drake London was top 3 in target percentage per team, like wise, if you look at it, Bijan only had 3 less touches per game than Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey's backup is injured. Christian's injury prone himself. No offense to him, but Christian's backup, Elijah Mitchell, is injury prone and wasn't always available to get those touches. Tyler Algier was a great player last year as a rookie. You can't just give that away. He's nice. And then as far as the other guys, their production counts on the guy throwing them the football. So and of course, I'm being biased as hell. I'm being so biased right now. I'm just looking at the
And
positives.
I didn't discredit him as an OC. I still said he's an overqualified OC. I'm just saying,
No,
you
yeah,
draft a fucking running back at 8, you might want to give that guy the fucking rock.
I hear
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you're not anticipating using the running back because you had a good rookie running back, why are you taking a running back 8th overall?
Well, he's a
Well,
run
and again,
guy.
that's why I
When
say
you
he
need
makes
a
a ton of
quarterback.
sense in Pittsburgh because they have kind of they have a true split backfield, a sensible
Correct.
split backfield. They have Najee who can fucking drop his shoulder and get the
Jalen-
fucking
and
short
Jalen
yardage, and
Warren-
they got Jalen
yeah.
Warren who's a fucking bullet. They have the thunder and lightning. Like,
See,
he knows
so,
what to do
so
with shit
Avery,
like
to
that.
that point, then I would say to you, why would Detroit draft Gibbs if they have Montgomery and give Montgomery all those carries, not give it to Gibbs? But Ben Johnson.
Because they signed Montgomery in the offseason.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I specifically remember thinking Jahmyr Gibbs was a weird draft pick on draft day just because, they had Montgomery, but beyond that, like, Jahmyr Gibbs, nobody knew who he was until he went to Alabama. Like, he just was an Alabama running back, and that's become just like tight ends in Iowa, like just like wide receivers in Ohio State. Like, they were like, oh, whoever the starting Alabama running back is, he's going to be a good running back. And I remember thinking, like, didn't he play for Georgia Tech?
He led the ACC
exactly.
in rushing
Nobody
at
fucking knew
Georgia
who he was
Tech.
at Georgia Tech.
He
And
led
then-
the ACC in rushing at Georgia Tech. Like, that's how good he is.
Well, and that's
So,
how he
like,
made his fucking way to Alabama. You know what I mean? I didn't know his goddamn name until he was in the SEC. But either way,
I mean,
he proved me wrong. Jahmyr Gibbs, especially as a pass catching running back, phenomenal. And it's a
what he
wildly
did,
similar
though.
backfield. That might be the best 1-2 in the league right now. right?
Yeah, but it's no question who's better with the ball in their hands between Gibbs and Montgomery. And if one guy's getting 33 touches and Gibbs,
I think
bro,
it's
there was games.
situational. Because
Listen,
look what they did with
Bettina
who's
had
the
him
guy who
winning.
signed with the Saints who had a fucking 1,000
Jamal
touchdowns for him
Williams.
last year?
Jamal
Williams.
Williams.
He didn't do fucking anything last year. Even
I'm
when
just
Kamara
saying,
wasn't
on one
playing, he
hand
didn't
we're
do anything.
calling
Didn't touch the rock.
Ben Johnson
And
a
again, look
genius for the
at
same thing we're
Detroit's
calling
offensive
Arthur
line.
Smith
Look at
an
Detroit's
idiot.
offensive line. Is that the best offensive line in the league?
Who?
Apparently,
Detroit.
no.
Probably, yeah.
Eagles are pretty good still.
I mean,
Detroit's offensive line, without question, top
you know,
3.
There's not
Yeah.
it's not a factual question.
So like I said in the beginning about Arthur Smith and the
Number
Pittsburgh
one, though.
Steelers, if they can shore up that line, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Their division ain't getting no fucking easier, but I think that they'll be fine.
And I think there's definitely growth, and with some of our picks and how loaded the draft is with skill positions this year, I think there might be some good takes, especially in the offensive line, mid first round where they pick.
And Matt Canada set that bar low, cuz it ain't gonna take much to be better than fucking last year. Matt Canada fucking set a new standard of dog shit. You gotta suck a bag of dicks to get fired mid-season by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bro,
Hey, bro.
what, 50 years,
Bro,
53
it's
years?
never happened. Never happened in our lifetime. I'll
No.
tell you that much. I'm not even a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Bro,
The bar is low. So yeah, I think they'll progress. That division ain't no fucking joke though, dude.
I personally think the Steelers need a veteran guy that's not named Allen Robinson in their wide receiver room.
Give me Russell Wilson or Justin
And Mike
Fields.
Evans, he wants out. Bryce,
But
you want to pay a guy. Russell Wilson? I don't know
I'm
if you
getting rid
want
of
Russ these
Deontay
days,
Johnson and
Yeah, but the
signing
thing
Mike
with
Evans
Russell Wilson
tomorrow.
is Russell Wilson checks a few boxes. The competition you want, and Denver is paying him $39 million this year. So you're gonna get a quarterback who's got a lot to prove. Who at one point last year, I'm pretty sure, bro, he had like 30 touchdowns, like 10 interceptions.
He was balling last year. He didn't pass the eye test, but if you looked at the numbers, he was right there with Pat Mahomes last year.
For
2 months.
Right, and Russ's thing is he excels with a run game and a defense. So I'm not saying that I think we'd win the Super Bowl. I'm saying it would be something to goddamn get me out of my seat for a second. That's all,
bro.
When's the last time they got bet like that?
That wasn't a fucking a screenplay. It wasn't an end around, a jet sweep.
Listen, this is why I really thought y'all were gonna make a move for Justin Fields because Tomlin fucking loves that guy. But now everybody and I might be Avery here. I might just be falling for fucking clickbait. But apparently Justin Fields no longer follows the Chicago Bears. He now follows Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson.
See, I think he was already following them because I went on to his Instagram and I was
there's a good chance.
No, I went on there and I was like, let me see if he's following George Pickens and Deontay, and he was following Najee. So I don't know if he just followed those Falcons players, but I was like, all right, bet.
Our next point here is a point that, as of last episode, will hit hard at home with Avery here. It's about their new head coach hire and how he fits with Bryce Young. I think he has a lot of my respect, especially with his path to the NFL and his determination and grit and hard work to get him there. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll be successful, especially with the challenges he has ahead of him, especially in a place like Carolina. But he's been in the league a long time. I mean, Josh is pretty familiar with some of the things that he's done, and Josh's a time when he was coming up as a coach. There was great success in Seattle with him, and when he was around Russell Wilson. Avery, what do you think about Dave Canales and how he'll fit in Carolina with Bryce Young?
Well, Josh said that Matt Canada set a standard for, lowness there with, the Steelers offense. Frank Reich, he did a damn good job of putting the Panthers offense in the lowest position possible. They were last in yards per game. They were last in passing yards per game. They were dead last in points per game. They scored 2 touchdowns. They averaged 2 touchdowns a game, 14 points a game. They had number 20th rushing attack, so there were times that they could run the ball, but there's also a lot of times they couldn't run the ball.
Chuba Hubbard.
Like Riley said, Canales, Chuba Hubbard, he can run the ball, but it starts up front. There were a lot of things that they needed to shore up front. Ike Ekwonu, he drafted from NC State. They picked him, on the board whether or not he'd be a tackler. Very clear that he is an inside offensive lineman. I don't know if he has the work ethic to cut weight and possibly get into a better position to where he can be more successful. I'm just not sold. I think that was a reach at 4 when they got him 2 years ago. I think it was 4, something like that, 3 or 4. But that's just not turned out into a good pick at all, in my opinion. Canales, like Riley said, former Seattle guy. He's that Pete Carroll tree. He started with Pete when he was at USC, left. His first year was the last year that Pete was there at USC. He left there and he went to Seattle, became the wide receivers coach. He was wide receivers coach for a while there. Decided, to get a raise. They put him at quarterbacks coach with Russell. Then he became the pass game coordinator. First year that Geno was there, quarterbacks coach. They say that he's responsible for Geno Smith, and last year he was the Bucs OC. Baker Mayfield had his best year in the NFL with this guy as his OC. I don't know, what
Listen,
that
I
entails for
think
Bryce Young.
I think
It's
that Bryce Young compares a lot to the Russell Wilson type,
mhm.
Drew Brees type, in the fact that they're
He's going
not.
stature. He's going
I'm
stature.
saying they're not
Like the
standing,
smaller
bro. I
guy.
didn't say that their careers were close. I'm saying their play style is very similar. The way that they play the game of football is very similar.
I think, because personally, I don't think Russell
I'm
He's
Wilson
not
can
wrong.
happy
operate in the
about. He's
pocket.
not
I mean,
happy
I
bro,
don't
about
think
his
Bryce
Russ,
Young
surgery.
coming out
I
is
don't think
very
Russell
comparable to
Wilson.
Drew Brees. So is
That's
Russell
that's
Wilson.
that's the closer comparison. I think Russell Wilson gets outside of the pocket and creates plays outside of the pocket with extending them better than Breeze and Young do. That's me personally. I think that's where Russell Wilson makes his money. Where
I
he
mean,
struggled last year was when
regardless,
Sean Payton was asking him to be in the pocket.
what I'm getting at is Carolina went out and got a guy that had success with the quarterback.
Smaller quarterbacks that
Right.
they're being in the pocket.
Canales is a good fit, is my point here. Because of that point alone, I think I'm not saying that they're anywhere close career wise. I'm not saying they've had the same success. I'm saying if you go look at them coming out of college and their measurables and who they're compared to and their styles, they're comparable in that regard. Okay.
Last year on 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, when they wanted to do the tush push or the QB sneak, whatever you want to call it, they would pull Bryce Young off the field and put Andy Dalton in because Bryce Young didn't want to get hurt. Quote me.
I mean,
Hey,
that
let's
is a
just be
pussy.
honest here.
I'm talking
Let's
about
just,
standing in
bro.
there throwing the ball, bro. I'm talking about running the offense.
He might need to eat a couple peanut butter and
They
jelly
fucking had
sandwiches
the
or
with the
something.
lowest yards
Yeah,
per
okay,
game.
Josh.
Thanks. He
Sorry.
funneled it
We're
to
sorry
Adam
as
Thielen, and
Panthers
it was
fans.
dog
We
shit.
can't
Bro.
have Jalen Hurts as quarterback. We can't have a guy that's 6'2", 230 at squat 600 pounds, running behind Jason Kelce.
Who's the running back?
No.
Chuba Hubbard and who else?
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, who got a fucking payday for no reason.
For
That
absolutely
dude,
no reason.
for no
If
fucking, he was running
the Panthers,
back
the Panthers
3
have the
for
worst
the
owner in the
Eagles.
NFL right
Bro,
now.
regardless, I think but all right, go. Who's a better fit? How about that? A guy with Russell Wilson experience to bring him in and be the offensive coordinator or to be the head coach, or a guy with Josh McDaniel, a guy with Jimmy Garoppolo experience.
Oh no, I like Canals. I just think Bryce Young fucking stinks, and he's always gonna stink.
But I don't think he's had an opportunity with Frank Reich. Like, come on.
He's an Alabama
They should have
quarterback.
stayed in the house. They should have stayed in the house and hired Isiro Evero. He was the DC. The guy has been there
that's
the
where I
last
thought they were
2
going
years.
with it too.
That's where I and a lot of other people thought they should have went. That's
Yeah.
just me. They fucked up not doing that with Steve Wilkes 2 years ago, in my opinion, too. Because Steve Wilkes single-handedly kept that team together. He ended up winning, I think, 4 games when they were 0-9 at one point.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
he's
the
unemployed
Panthers,
again.
you know what I mean? Like, that's just where I'm thinking. And the OC, I've never heard of Brad Idzek, but apparently he is right up there with Canellis, as far as his shadow. wherever he was, that's where Idzik was. So it's going to be interesting. Like Josh said, the expectations for the Panthers are here. This is the league average is way up here, bro. You're looking top 3 again next year, and this time you'll have a first round pick because you didn't sell it for Bryce
Horrible
Young.
trade. Horrible trade.
I don't understand that trade at all. Still to this day, why you give up 2 number ones, your number 2, and your best outside playmaker for a rookie quarterback.
That was so bad.
And you get a Stroud there, maybe it's justified, but they didn't.
Nah, listen. All I have to say is we know who said CJ Stroud was gonna be good. This guy.
I'm not saying, and I'm not gonna say that Bryce Young isn't bad either. Like Bryce Young just
Josh is
he's got a shitty bro. He hates Alabama guys. I think I'm starting to become.
If there's something I hate about Josh, it's literally that apparently if you went to Ohio State or Alabama, there's just some superstitious curse that your work ethic.
There's nothing superstitious about it.
Hey, the best quarterbacks in the NFL came from Oregon, right?
If you're surrounded, I never said a word about Oregon. I never said
Justin Herbert's better than Phillip Rivers, better than he'll ever be.
Yeah.
I stand by that too, for sure. Justin Herbert will have a better career than Phil Rivers.
I'm going to tell you, Justin Herbert.
I'm saying if you're a quarterback at Ohio State or Alabama, you got nothing but 5 stars in front of you, nothing but 5 stars behind you, nothing but 5 stars to fucking throw to. Whatever NFL team drafts you, it's going to be a step down because it's a salary cap league. That's why no Alabama or Ohio State quarterback has done shit as far as win championships since Joe Namath. I'm only 29 years old. I haven't seen a fucking Alabama or Ohio State quarterback win.
Yikes.
It's not a superstitious thing. It is what it is. It's a salary cap league. You go from 5 stars everywhere, which is the equivalent of, spending
this is coming from
the equivalent of being negative $138 million in cap. And then you get drafted by a team in the top 5 picks, so you're going to a dog shit team.
Bro, the last team to be successful, if you go look at it, the Cowboys was the last time they were successful was before they implemented a salary cap. Just saying.
Hey, man.
Some things are coincidence. And I swear to God, I don't wish ill on these guys. I hope CJ Stroud is a dog. I hope he's the next one.
You hope.
And I like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields has come a long fucking way. I think he's developed great. That said, he hasn't won a fucking thing.
Yeah, but it's different now too.
What about
Wait, hold on. 3 OCs
anything. That may have been true, but in today's I'm sorry,
I'm shit either.
Bro, I'm not saying Ohio State and Alabama.
Bro, but I'm just saying.
But so Oregon doesn't have the same receivers that Ohio State does, or that Georgia does. All those teams have great players right now.
Marcus Mariota's won.
Marcus Mariota's a
backup job.
Yeah, what about Jameis Winston?
NFL.
How about Andrew Luck? What did Andrew Luck win? So is he not great? Dan Marino went to Pitt.
Tim Tebow.
It's almost like hard quarterbacks are good, or good quarterbacks are hard to find. Hard quarterbacks.
I understand hard to find. I'm just saying. Can anybody prove me wrong about the Ohio State and Alabama quarterbacks?
Hold on, time out. Ronnie just said hard quarterbacks are good to find.
Whoa.
We know Deshaun Watson's one of them.
Hey, yo. Hey, yo.
All right. So, does anybody have anything else about Canales and Carolina and that?
Man, the standard and the bar is low as dirt, bro. Like, go ahead and pack it up, Panthers fans. You might win 4 games this year. We're setting the Redskins or Commanders. Sorry, everybody. We're setting the Commanders at 4.5. The Panthers might be 2.5. I don't even see them beating anybody in the. Hey, I'm just keeping it hot. Being honest.
The one thing going for them is their division is really fucking bad.
Yeah, their division
that's the best thing going.
Hey, bro.
And if you're Justin Fields, bro,
they ain't gonna fucking win it.
If you're Justin Fields, you want to go to that division. But if you're the Bears, you probably don't want to trade him in the NFC. So we'll see.
They're going to, bro. It's the fucking. I have to think so.
Probably.
They're gonna
He's
make
from
that
Atlanta.
mistake. They're gonna make that mistake, and I could be wrong. They're gonna make that mistake though. They're gonna say we have good in Justin Fields, but we might fuck up and not get great in Caleb Williams.
You trade
It's
no,
a
bro. I'm going to tell
huge
y'all Caleb
gamble.
Williams. Caleb
Huge
Williams is
gamble.
going to be dog shit. I'm telling all of you guys, everybody's
Yeah.
going to watch
I wouldn't be
this in the
surprised.
future. Caleb Williams
One
is
of
going
those
to be
one of those
dog
three
shit.
will be good. One or two probably.
Who's your three?
I would probably say Drake May number one because like what are we talking about? Prototypical size, arm strength, movement.
We'll do that real quick. Who's your top three quarterbacks in the draft? We don't even got to get into it. Just who's your top three quarterbacks in the
Yeah,
draft?
then I would go Caleb and then Jaden, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was any order. Honestly, I mean it's tough.
Who's yours?
I mean, the experts say Caleb obviously is like unanimous one. I think Drake May could be up there too, but that's just because of style. I don't know, dude. It's hard to say. Caleb Williams is like one of the most highest.
We might
rated
have to do more
recruits.
research on this one.
Yeah, but I mean, Caleb Williams is one of the highest rated recruits, and the last person we saw like this was Trevor Lawrence, right? And Trevor Lawrence is fraud.
He's a fraud.
Ooh. Ooh.
We don't have to get into it. Who's your top three?
My top three. I'm gonna fucking blow everyone's dick off here. Apparently.
Oh, Nick.
Oh, Knicks!
No. I have Caleb Williams at one. I think he's going to be the easiest to transition. I have Michael Penix at two,
Yeah,
Okay.
I like Penix.
and I
a
have
lot.
Bo Nix at three.
See now if I had to say for the Steelers, the guys that I were wanting, I had Penix up there as one of the guys that I actually would love to see the Steelers snag.
Available.
So talented, bro. He's got
a winner.
full knee reconstruction. Crazy.
Yeah,
Avery, who's your
tell
top
y'all.
three? Avery, who's your top three?
Jaden Daniels is number one.
Okay.
It can be a hot take. Go ahead, put the
No,
put
I
the
like it, I like
light
it.
on me, bro.
Three different ones.
Hey, Jay
Not a
Daniels
hot
is
take.
one. Penix is two, and
Okay.
I'm not going Drake May at three. I'll put Caleb Williams over Drake May. Drake May's a fraud. Drake May's bad tape is fucking horrible, bro.
Yeah, it is.
That guy's got a bad tape.
But you're
But-
talking about pedigree, bro. Everything else, if you're a good coach, you should feel like I can fix
And
that.
we can talk about When we talk about quarterback, Mitch Trubisky also came from Carolina, and he ain't done a fucking thing in the NFL.
Hey, listen. I think that some of this talk about some of these prospects will be really good in some future episodes.
Yeah, I'm ready for
However-
draft talk.
However, me and the guys have been in a group chat together, and they've kind of brought some things about that they thought we should talk about. And I know we mostly talk about football here, so kind of save this for the end. Give everybody a couple minutes here to just talk about whatever they want. Uninterrupted time, just to chat. I had an experience last night. I got home from work, was hanging out, turned the television on, went over to grab my son, pick him up, hang out with him for a little while, and the Daytona 500 was on. And in the amount of time it took me to grab my son and get to the couch and grab the remote to hopefully get the channel changed, there was an 18-car pileup. And I just want to say, well done. There's about 10 laps left, and 8 laps left,
Yeah.
and I was hooked. I watched the entire rest of the race. We talked a lot about how the NFL was fixing the Super Bowl and doing this, that, and the third. I mean, I don't know what's a better marketing ploy to have the Daytona 500 on a Monday night when nothing else is going on, and there's a 18-car pileup with 8 laps left. Needless to say, I watched the end of the race, and NASCAR has gained a fan for 2024. Thank you,
Who's your
NASCAR.
driver?
Stay tuned for my driver. I haven't done the research I need to, but I will bring a driver. I promise a driver next episode.
We all get drivers. We
could get drivers. I mean, we don't have to.
Yeah,
I don't know much about it, but
I
got dibs on Bubba.
But hey, fuck Kyle Busch. Give me Eminem's guy.
Josh, anything you've seen in the sports world in the last week that you feel like talking about?
Yeah, today the NCAA cleared off on the 5+7 playoffs for next year, which means that now 9% of the 133 Division I football programs will be making it into the playoffs rather than 3% of them, which I think is long overdue. There's going to be people hating it no matter what, because they're going to be. So the structure, the way that it's laid out right now, it looks like, the Power 5 conferences, whoever wins those conferences is going to be, 1 through 5 seed. And then it's kind of a free for all. You know what I mean? And a friend of mine today brought to my attention, like, what if Notre Dame's playing the best they ever have? Are you telling me the best they can possibly get is like the 6th seed if they don't go to a conference? Yes. And he also said, why wouldn't they go to a conference? Because case in point, Ohio State played Notre Dame last year. Ohio State, in that massively viewed game, like Super Bowl-esque numbers that fucking game had as far as views, Ohio State made $4.5 million on that game, and Notre Dame made $22.5 million. That's why they'll never go to a conference. They don't fucking need to. They're still going to make the playoffs next year. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited as hell for college football. I think the parity's just on a different fucking level right now. And I'm excited as hell for 12 teams in the playoffs because, man, my team just never fucking makes the 4, So things are looking good as far as making 12. We don't have Bo Nix anymore, unfortunately. He's an absolute fucking gun. But, yeah,
But
dude,
you
there's
got
we
a
made a lot
very
of
good
great signings. We have
replacement.
a shitload of NIL money because the CEO of Nike is an alumni, so we're just swimming in it. We're going to pay a bunch of guys. We're going to make some shit fucking happen. And the grass is damn green in Eugene. Whoever's next.
Avery.
Me and Ronnie were kind of like, Ronnie asked me a question earlier. I'm going to kind of fire off at Jay Williams' dumbass for a second because, ESPN loves to hire these idiots. I'm going to call him an idiot because that's exactly what the fuck he is. Ronnie asked me what I thought about Caitlin Clark. Jay Williams said, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, Caitlin Clark can't be considered the greatest college women's basketball player because she's not going to win a national title. Let's talk about it. Has Iowa's women's basketball team ever done shit?
Nope.
No. We're just gonna answer that. No, they haven't. They probably made the NCAA tournament. Yeah, their coach has been there a long time. Yeah, they probably had some good players. Yeah, Caitlin Clark is what Steph Curry to Davidson was in the late 2000s. That's what she is for women's basketball. She is going to be the Steph Curry of that shit. We saw Sabrina Ionescu do a 3-point contest against Steph Curry. In 3 years, it's going to be Caitlin Clark versus Steph Curry. She is going to transcend the game of women's basketball. If you watch women's basketball, it's very, very fundamental. It's very post and paint oriented. South Carolina, they're on their winning streak that they are because they feed the post. They score 2 points. It is what it is. That's why LSU beat them last year because Angel Reese did that better than Aaliyah Boston. And that's what happened in the national title game. LSU also started hitting threes. I think they hit like 60% of their threes in the first half. It was ridiculous. But besides the point, Caitlin Clark is doing something that is transcending the sport of basketball because she is creating a lane that other women are going to follow. Paige Beckers should be coming out this year from UConn. Guess what? She's not because she doesn't have any draft. There's no draft hype behind her. But she came out. She was the number 1 player in America. She was in the same class as Caitlin Clark. Guess what? Caitlin Clark has overtaken her. Paige Becker had overtime following her entire senior year in Wisconsin or Minnesota, wherever the fuck she's from. Guess what? Am I talking about Paige Buckets up there at UConn? They're talking about Caitlin Clark at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So give her respect. That's all I'm saying. You might not have to call her the greatest, but she's easily top 5. Scoring 3,600 points allows you to be that. So Ronnie, what you got, man?
No, that's actually exactly what I was about to say. I was going to bring up the exact same topic you did.
Oh, man, sorry.
No, that's great, man. I mean, I just seen that. I just say some of these analysts, man, just take it easy on some of the women, man. Got some ballers out here. Caitlin and Sabrina too. I see people hating on her because she lost to Steph Curry in a 3-point competition by 2 shots. And Kenny Smith is like, well, she should be shooting from the women's 3-point line.
Bro, she would have been in the finals in the men's 3-point contest.
Yeah, like
She had the same score that Damian Lillard won with.
Yes, like come on, man. Let's listen. These women are starting to become ballers, man. I mean, Caitlin Clark was beating all the men when she was young. Like, it is what it is, man. I love to see it.
Speaking of, I got one more thing. Here in North Carolina, this year was the first year that they offered women's wrestling in high school. So this past weekend, was the first women's state championship wrestling. There were 7 wrestlers that were crowned in all 4 classes. Next year it will go up to 8, I'm sure. 10, whatever, however many, reclassifications coming. So shout out to those 7 that won, the first women's state championships of wrestling also.
Is it girls only wrestling other girls?
Yes.
Because girls been wrestling boys up here for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's straight women versus women. It's the first time they've ever had that here in North Carolina. So, I want to shout those women out also because I was setting records, trailblazing.
Hey, thank you guys for joining us again for our now 3rd episode of our podcast here, talking some football, wrapping it up with some sports news all together at the end here. Look forward to seeing you next week. It's our 4th episode, and if you could, just give us a subscription, a like, and please leave a comment about any of your thoughts to or from our little conversation we had here this evening. Have a good night.
Love you guys.